Hello there. Hello there. Much love to you. This is Jerome Shaw, host of the Open Palm podcast, motivator, meditator. And I'm coming at you today with an informal reading. So, divine greetings. We're going to be reading today from this wonderful book. This book is called the Pranic World Book. See if that might be backwards for you, but this is the Pranic World Book written by Cristiana Eltrayan, and we're going to be reading through it. I read through this book once already, and I'm going to read again through it with you. So I trust that you'll enjoy the content, as I feel like this is definitely the time, to realign and become more inclined to different things, different ways of thinking, different ways of being, and different knowledge. So I trust that you'll enjoy. And, I haven't met Cristiana Eltrayan personally, but we did have an interview together, and I'll go ahead and tag that interview here. I'll add a link for it in the description for you, your viewing and listening pleasure, as it was definitely a treasure, And she has such a measure of wealth when it comes to the intelligence, when it comes to the knowing, and when it comes to the various ways that she is showing humanity how to up-level their energy, how to up-level their game to be self-sustained, the energy that we maintain. So without further ado, this writing was written in 2018 by Cristiana Eltrayan, and she's also a friend of Eltrayan. They've done different retreats, and she also puts on the Pranic festival every year in Romania for I don't know how many years she's been doing it. So let's get into it and start to digest these goodies, some pranic nourishment for you. So introduction, the Pranic World Book, Cristiana Eltrayan. Pranic nourishment and grace. And just excuse me, we'll just be going at a leisurely pace. This won't be, very formal reading, but throughout the reading, I'll be giving my thoughts as I've highlighted throughout these chapters. Pranic nourishment and grace. During the past 7 years, I've been diving deeper in a paradigm that is strange to some. The possibility of living without hunger. The possibility of being nourished by prana, that is. In 2010, I attended a workshop in Romania. Some hundreds of people have gathered together to listen to a lady that was introducing them to the paradigm of being nourished by chi. Some friends called me over, and the theme seemed instantly known to me. I found it normal. After a while, I met the lady again, the next year, and the next year, as she was coming to visit Romania yearly. Her name is Jasmuheen, and she had been nourished by life force for more than 15 years when we first met. Now, I'm sure that if you are here, if you're watching this right now, and you're aware of pranic living, pranic nourishment, Breatharianism, then you're definitely aware of Jasmuheen, which I consider to be the godmother of Breatharianism. In this modern age, she's a modern sage. She's still alive today, putting on darkroom retreats and different retreats around the world, and, just letting that energy unfurl. And it's just, a shining pearl of wisdom to see that and to be that, She's one of the ones that enlightened me when I came into this learning and had that burning within me and that yearning within me to discover more, to explore and to see what life had in store for me in this path. So Jasmine, shout out to Jasmine, because I remember seeing interviews with her in like back in the 80s and something like maybe even the 90s as well. And, you know, people were laughing at her back in the day, years ago. And she was prophesying, saying that, you know, decades from now, you guys are going to be looking back at us and saying like, those crazy people, like, they were right. You know, she prophesied. But reading her books, Pranic Nourishment 101 and also Food of the Gods, you know, those books really up-leveled me and showed me that there was more that meets the eye. So shout out to Jasmine. Then in 2013, I decided to try it out myself. I knew there was a training in Thailand where I could go and learn more about this possibility, spending 10 days and nights in total darkness with just juice or prana, exercising pranic nourishment, plus many healing tools that would bring one into a more balanced state. So there I went, fully trusting that I was prepared for this type of training. And so I was. It was a bliss. And after I came back, I even wrote a book about it called Dark Room Retreat, a Lightful Mystical Experience. After my returning from the training, where I felt natural and comfortable with this way of life, maybe just some cravings as my emotional body was clearing, I went home and spent almost a month without food. I was only having some juice, maybe once a day, once in a few days, sometimes half an apple, if I felt so. And some days, I couldn't imagine swallowing any external nourishment, as my neck was imbued with a far more subtle substance that would also keep me in a high state of peacefulness. Only once I tried eating that month, but the discomfort was so strong the next night that I had nothing left to do than pray before it stopped. I should have listened. There were no rules to this rhythm initiation that I had at home after the retreat in Thailand. All I had to do was listen to my body and stay tuned to my chakras to see how they reacted to the idea of eating certain things. When I came close to a glass of juice or fruit or solid food, if my neck would constrict, it meant it didn't want that food running through it. If the chakras would expand, it meant that it was okay to take it. I still function this way with foods and other choices. I did not feel hungry or weak. I would work, go out, enjoy the day, but my meditation and yoga rhythm were increased during that period, up to several hours of practice during day or night. When did you have time for this? One might ask. We can find time for that. It's just a matter of lifestyle choices. Between TV or playing computer games or going out or meditating, time is still time in a way. Now, I highlighted this because it's interesting, you know, just as Cristiana is talking right here, you know, the question of when did you find time, you know? Meditating several hours a day, what are you talking about? Like, when did you find time? And when I've talked to several advanced meditators, ironically, they talk about how meditation is almost a form of saving time, you know? And how actually, just like Charles Buxton said, you will never find time for anything. Since time is a created thing, to have time, you must make it. It's not that you take it, but you create it. You make the time for the things that are aligned for you. You make the time for what you are more inclined to do. And when you understand that you will never find the time, but you make the time, you realize that everything is a choice. Even right now, as I'm sharing my voice, right? As you're listening to me, we're both making the time for each other. You can make the time for another. So understand that you always have it within your power. Every minute, every hour, you can make the time. You can create the time. And it's up to you in what you do. What you choose is up to you. So anyway, after a while, my rhythm got back to a more ordinary pace. I felt called to eat fruit again. Then raw salads, and at times warm foods, mostly soup if required. What requires me to do that? I have an inner guidance that tells me what to do all the time, and I choose to listen most of the time. And that's funny too, because I also feel like my body speaks to me. And as you head down this journey, you'll hear your body talking to you. You'll see that sometimes you're no longer resonating with things that you used to, Things that used to be or used to feel nourishing for you or used to feel flourishing for you. The more you go down this path, sometimes they turn toxic, You start to feel like, oh wow, I'm no longer aligned with this. I'm no longer defined by this. I'm no longer resonating with this frequency here. I've actually gone beyond it. And I remember hearing Eltrayan talk about how he was into the Fritos and avocados for so long. For so long that he thought that he would never, ever put them down, right? They were always around. Avocados, Fritos, every single day. Until one day, he tasted an avocado and something was off. It didn't taste the same. And then he went into the market and bought another one, and something still was off. It didn't taste the same. Then he went to another market and bought another one, and it was still off. It didn't taste like it used to. And he realized that somehow, through maybe his energy practices, through his meditation, through bringing in more light vibration, he had transcended. And his love affair with the avocados had ended. So his stomach was no longer distended, right? And the energy and the light was no longer suspended. He was able to rise above. But he was able to do it with love. So, from then on, my food intake was weird, as I would have times of prana and maybe just half an avocado during a day. And times with daily food intake, very light though, once or twice a day. What dictated that rhythm? Mostly my activities, my degree of busyness, the groups I had to meet. It's so easy to tune into a group's energy field by having a bite of their traditional food right before meeting them, like an energy blueprint, attunement, and so on. In 2015 to 2016, I went to several trainings in biofield attunement and met more and more pranic friends. And as my pranic rhythm was weird to me, I was not with food, nor fully pranic, but more like a hybrid device. I wanted to know more about their lifestyle. Surprisingly, after interviewing more than 15 of them and also sharing with them over these years, my conclusion is, with prana and pranic nourishment, there is no fixed recipe. You cannot treat it like an equation where A plus B always equals C. Sometimes it doesn't. I've discovered that each system was different. Each one was using his or her own particular methods to keep themselves tuned to the pranic field. And even some said there were no methods. Now, I highlighted this passage because I think it's really important to understand that, as she said, there's no one size fits all. There's no one equation where A plus B always equals C when it comes to pranic nourishment. And that each and every person has their own form of attunement or their own feeling when it comes to the pranic state, and their own healing that is revealing when it comes to the pranic state for them. So think of like a mountain, you know, and you're walking up a mountain, and you can walk behind somebody, right? You can take the same path that somebody else is taking, but you don't necessarily have to head up that path. There's many other paths that can get to the same horizon on the top of the mountain. So you can take the less trodden path, you can take the beaten path, you can take the discrete path that wraps around, right? You can take the path that goes up, that goes down, that goes all the way this way, right? You can take the path through the bushes, you can take the path over there, but each path that you take, it doesn't matter which one you make. But once you see what's at stake, once you get to the top, right? You see further than you saw before. But it doesn't mean that there's only one way to explore the mountain. So I implore you to find the way that works for you and the way that is unique in all that you do. But finding that path means trial and error. But understand that there is no failure. Discovering your path is its own kind of task. But we each see the same view, no matter what we had to do or not do. Because sometimes the path feels like no path at all, you know? It just feels like you're following your own intuition, following your heart that's leading you right from the start. Furthermore, it's not like we've imagined that once you've gone pranic, you never choose to eat. On the contrary, most of them cherish this gift, while they learned to also really respect and appreciate food and their bodies as well. So from this perspective, the general word would be flexibility. Now, flexibility is one of the best abilities that you can have. You know, I think we would agree on that. That when you say that you have a flexible body, you also have a flexible mind, because you've taken the time, you know. And it's interesting to have that flexibility when it comes to your practices, when it comes to the modalities and the mentality that shifts and shapes your own reality. And that is to say that, okay, you can be immersed within yoga, you can be immersed within, you know, knowledge, you can be immersed within your own form of wisdom, you can be immersed within an energetic experience or meditation or raising your vibration with all sorts of different ways. But once again, circling back is not to say that one way must have the day, you know, but that you engage in your own way and be flexible. So don't be afraid to be flexible when it comes to your pranic process and your pranic procedures as a practitioner. But just like they talk about with meditation, it's a lifelong practice. You know, there's really no end to the time that we spend. And to add a final layer, but very important, what I discovered is that most of us never really sought for this gift of being nourished by prana. And I love this part. What we were after was more alignment, more peace, more joy. And eventually, when those were fully stabilized in their beings, the gift of not feeling hungry came along because we were full. I think that's so beautiful. You know, it said the gift of not feeling hungry came along because we were full. We were already full. But what people were actually looking for, and what most people are searching for, was just more alignment, more peace, and more joy, right? They weren't necessarily looking to be free from all hunger, but they were looking to have more of those things that are nourishing to the vessel, you know, letting peace, joy, and alignment come to nestle within the vessel, you know, not having to wrestle, not having to struggle, not having to pull and tug, and having everything be a chore, you know, having things feel like a bore, right? But discovering that within yourself, you can have your own peace and mental health, and that your health is your wealth, that it can be its own form of abundance, of opulence, of prosperity for you, of clarity for you in all that you do. So I just love that some people stumbled upon pranic living and realized that they weren't hungry when they became fully stabilized. You know, they were more willing and able when they became stable within the pranic frequency. Therefore, I would conclude that pranic nourishment is a matter of lifestyle plus alignment plus grace, in which grace plays a big, big part, not to be underestimated. Beautiful. Beautiful. So this was just the introduction to this book here, the Pranic World book. And next we'll come back and we're going to be doing chapter 1, Pranic World, Pranic Detox. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for glistening. I appreciate you receiving the energy here, and look forward to more content as the days go by. We'll be uploading, this will be a series for the Pranic World book by Cristiana Eltrayan. Enjoy the journey. Do all that you can. Take care.